Mai haere mai e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on Gadigal land in Sydney, and in Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington, we have Alex. Erin is in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. Well, we have two games to discuss this week. We'll start with the men. The men played Central Coast Mariners in Christchurch, in Otautahi, Christchurch. They had a fantastic turnout, really. 14,000 people showed up. It was a really good crowd. It seemed like they had a good time despite the 0-0 draw that we got. I feel like we probably should have won that, even though there were fewer chances than actually it seemed. The XG was only 0.77 to 0.37. The big talking point, though, is potentially 2 penalties. Who wants to get started on the penalties? We'll start with those because that's the big talking point.
I'll get started. I think the first one was a penalty. I think it's the more clear of the two. It's pretty clear to me. I think he trips. I think the only mitigating factor is that he kind of takes a step and then falls, which makes it look more like a dive. So I think that's kind of the only thing saving Caltech. The second one, and this is quite rare for me. I truly don't know if it's a penalty or not. I looked at it so many times, I just can't tell. Like there's reasons why it could be, there's reasons why it can't be. The camera angle isn't that great. It's hard to see. I know VAR has some other angles that we don't. I just think VAR upholds the decision of the referee for that.
Interesting that the VAR didn't even call the ref over to check it. If you look back at the Auckland FC vs Adelaide game, the VAR called the ref over, and then the ref stuck with his decision that it wasn't a foul in the build-up to the goal. And so I thought it was quite interesting that they didn't even say come and have a look at it and make your final decision based on it. They just said nah. No penalties or nothing for both of them. And yeah, that first one, I feel like that was kind of frustrating to see that not given as anything, because I feel like it almost encourages diving. That if you get that contact there, you just fall down instead of trying to play on and maybe create something from it. If he had just fallen straight over from that first contact, that would have been a penalty, like no doubt about it. So bit frustrated to not see that one given, and then to kind of have a second one not given. Yeah, it wasn't overly clear from the angles we saw, and maybe VAR had ones that were kind of special that showed that it was maybe a clean contact of the ball or whatever. But it's frustrating to kind of see the two of them not given when the first one probably should have been a foul in the first place.
How do we feel about the performance otherwise? I think it was a little bit disappointing that we didn't play a little bit better, but we did have some chances, as did Mariners. I just feel like we're still really struggling. How do we feel about the actual performance beyond the talking points of the penalty?
I actually think it was a really big improvement in performance. I think we spoke in the previous pod about how much of an improvement Central Coast have been in the last few weeks, and we were kind of targeting a draw, and we got there. I think it's a big improvement from really bad performances, and we've kind of reached up or raised our level to mediocre. So I guess the next step is really good. I think defensively we're a lot more sound than in previous games. I can't remember Albie making a really big save. I think that's the first time this season where that's happened. And it was just more kind of calm, and there was kind of less going on. I think there was a really beautiful phase of play in the 83rd minute, which kind of started. I think Conchi brought Barbarouses into the play, and Barbarouses kind of sucked out the defenders really well. And then we switched it over to Walker, who was running into the space that Barbarouses had created. And then Walker, he kind of doesn't have much end product, but he manages to get a pretty good cross into the box, which after a Mariners player gets, a touch on it, falls to Corbin Piper, and he switches it to Ishige in the middle, and Ishige kind of works his magic and ends up forcing a pretty good save at the keeper. I think that was kind of the highlight of the game, apart from those two penalties. And I think if we that was probably the most beautiful play we've seen all season. In a way, I think has been one of our best games since we've had kind of that form slump. And I think if we can continue on that trajectory, defense starts first. I think we're definitely on an upwards trend.
Yeah, I don't know if I can find a way to yap about a 0-0 draw again this week, so maybe I'll just keep mine short. But we're undefeated in 3 games now, which is, I think, the longest undefeated streak we've had so far this season. Don't know if that shows that we've been poor before. We're kind of in a bit of a better situation now, but at least that's a positive to come from that. But I did kind of feel like we maybe showed a bit more going forward this game. It's potentially just because we've been pretty dire recently that kind of any forward play feels like a win on its own. But I kind of felt like we had some opportunities where I thought that we might score, but unfortunately we didn't. 0-0 draw. Don't really have much more to say about that. Hopefully the extra week off means that we can, have some injuries heal and we can get those players signed and, come back and get some points.
I think Chiefy has said that we're targeting a Visa 10 by our next game. So we've got a bye next week, and then the following week we're playing Brisbane at home, I think. And he's said that we're looking to sign a 10 by then, and maybe a local spot, a local player. Hopefully should have Payne back by then too. He's also said that Rojas is out for the season, which is really disappointing considering that we pretty much built the whole squad around him. But we've got that the Visa 10 should hopefully be a like-for-like replacement, maybe. Bargaining. Holly's holding up a sign that says bargaining.
No, remember we talked about the 5 stages of grief, and then Danny noted that he was bargaining, so I made a sign. For those of you who are only listening, I made a sign that says bargaining that I'm going to hold up every time we're bargaining. We're at the bargaining stage of grief. How do we feel about the Rojas signing? Because there's some of us not me, but there's at least one person, a couple of people in the little corner of yellow who feels like he was a wishful thinking, wasted signing because he was never going to be fit. When he's fit, he's great, but how many games has he played? Like 1? Something crazy like that. Was that a wasted signing? Was that too much of a gamble on someone who feels like they're constantly injured, or is that just bad luck?
I think he's a similar kind of signing to what Piscopo would be. Piscopo was kind of injury prone as well, and he was always taking games off I think calf and then ankle and then hamstring and then whatever else it was. And Piscopo's kind of come right at the moment. It looks like he's been getting a bit more game time there, but I think Rojas is similar. He's kind of been injury prone his whole career, and one good thing is that he's not a visa player, so pulling him in doesn't take up that visa spot if he gets injured. But I think it's pretty big of a risk to bring him in with those injuries that are known, but it's also, if he didn't get injured, he would have been fantastic for us. So maybe it was a bit of a 50-50 chance, and unfortunately the odds went in our favour.
Maybe perhaps the bigger concern beyond actually signing him was Chiefy saying, well, look, we look to build the team around him. And there's always a massive risk when you do that with a player, especially if they don't have some sort of backup that's going to be, okay, well, we can pop this person in and still play the same way.
I think it's a good signing. I think bringing a hometown boy back to the club, he's got I think his signing was funded by the Fever or something like that. I'm probably too young to remember that, but he's got a special connection with the club. He's been a really great player in the A-League. He didn't really succeed in Peru, but he had some good touches, had some good moments. To be honest, I think every player has a punt in the A-League, and there's no one you can sign except the top players who you're like, okay, they will definitely perform. I thought that would be the case of Retre, that he would be a great sign for us. Hasn't really shown it. He's shown it in little pieces, yet to connect the whole jigsaw together. I think Rojas offers something that very few players especially Kiwi players do, and players in the A League. So it's always going to be a punt. But if he is fit, he offers so much to the team, and he can build the team. He can bring other players into play. He just allows for a complete. He facilitates a completely different style of play, and I just want to say that Piscopo, I think he had lots of little small injuries and he had lots of niggles throughout his whole time at the Knicks. Rojas has had 2 injuries. He fractured something. It was his back in preseason, and now it's his ankle. He's had 2 really big injuries, which I think is kind of unlucky. I think it was a rolled ankle at first, which can happen to anyone. That's not something that just flares up. It's not like a no contact injury. It's just he fell funny. Whoops. Now he's out for the season. Hopefully we can have him back next season. I'm not sure what contract he's on, but I'd like to see him back next season. I still think he's a good player and he's got plenty to offer.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what comes in the rest of the window. And like I said, Chiefy has made it clear that he's looking for a 10 or someone who can really connect that. He also mentioned that he was looking for someone who could bridge the age gap. We've got quite a few older players and a lot of really young players. So he was looking at people who were mid-20s. So I've got no idea who that could be, but I'm sure he will make a good choice. Not everything works out, but Chiefy did do a very good job, even with the role he had as an assistant coach under Uffy, that most of our visa players were hits and not misses. The next game we will have is at home. It's on February the 6th, so the Waitangi game day, 4:30 New Zealand time. That is really early on a work day for everybody who lives in Australia, but never mind, I will work something out. We've got a lot of time between then and now to sort things out. Raw have obviously been poor this season. However, they are capable of a decent performance. I would really be expecting 3 points in this game. What do you think, Erin?
Yeah, I think I expect nothing less than a win for this game. Not only just to kind of save our season, but to save my sanity. The table's very, very congested at the moment. Like, it kind of looks like we're in a bad position sitting 9th, however, but there's only 6 points between 10th place and 3rd place. That's kind of 2 games and someone else losing 2 and you're back in it. And so I think that this is the game where we kind of have to win. And I mean, yeah, we just have to win it. Nothing more to say there. And yeah, I'll be in Wellington for that game. Flights are cheap that weekend, so I'm going to be there. And I've been working on my tan to prepare for shirts off. So hopefully, we're leading at 80 minutes and we can have some fun back.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a good time to be playing Raw because teams in the A-League this season haven't been that great after the bye. That was kind of when our season started to go downhill, which was the second game against Auckland, which was after a bye. So it's good we're playing, probably the worst team in the league. I don't really know how Ruben Zedkovic still has a job there, to be honest. They've been playing horrible football. It should be easy pickings, especially at home. Hopefully get a good crowd. Even if we get the visa player signed, I'm not sure if he will play. Chief has been, pretty, I don't know, he hasn't really played his visa players. He's kind of given them a wee bit of time to, integrate with the squad. I know it's hard coming in from overseas in the middle of the season, to a mid-table team, especially if you've got all that pressure on your shoulders, bridging the gap, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure if that's true, if that's just talk from him. He should, it's kind of like when Albie started playing, he I'm not sure if he was playing because of his ability or just because he wanted to, spice up the team a bit. And I'm sure Visa will do that. So, yeah, 3 points.
All right. So we will turn to the women's game that was yesterday in Woy Woy near Gosford at Woy Woy Oval. That is the first time I'd been to Woy Woy Oval. It's quite a nice ground. The stands and all that are really modern. The pitch, however, looks beautiful. The pitch looks beautiful, but the grass type is wrong or something. It's really spongy. Both teams complained about it, and this is the last game that they're going to have in Woy Woy, so they'll be back at Industry Group Stadium after since this match. So we copped a 1-0 loss there. Tiana Fuller with a long range shot in the 54th minute just absolutely unleashes from a surprising place. I don't think there's much we can do about that. We were trying to close her down. Nothing Carolina Villar can do about that. I really think that we could have won this game. We had the usual first half, we were not as good. Second half, we were better. And in fact, bizarrely, these stats worked out like exactly the same. When you look at the full-time stats, 50-50 possession, the passes made were exactly the same. Shots 13-11 on goal, 4-3. Like it's really crazy how even that game was at full time. We played a lot better in the second half as usual. Mac was our player of the match. Again, a brilliant defensive performance. I think she's kept us in the game. We didn't have Tanaka. Don't know what caused that. Hopefully she's back for the next game. And despite having heard that Izzy would be ready for the Mariners to play yesterday, she was not, which I think was helpful to us. But really, as much as we did have good spots, and especially when we had that range of corners, like about 5 corners in a row, I think we really could have won that. We had some other good chances. Jolly had a good chance. Fergie had a couple of chances. There were a lot of things not going right. There were a lot of things where we were not making the right pass, or the pass wasn't quite hit right, or someone would be making a run and the person who was making the pass would wait too long or not long enough. It wasn't coming together. So a bit of a mixed bag there in terms of the game. Alex, how did you feel about the game?
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought we could have won that game. I think we had a few chances. Jale looked a bit out of sorts this game, especially with her decision making in the final third. I'm not sure what it is with her, but she seems to kind of be all or nothing with her. She scored a couple long range bangers, and then last game she was taking shots from like God knows where, pretty much everywhere. She was like, "Oh, I'll have a shot, why not?" And none of them were kind of any remotely close. And then this game, it seems to be the complete opposite. She's not shooting, and then there was one time where she had pretty much a clear shot on goal. She was in the box, and she decides to cross it for some weird reason, and it wasn't really a cross. And I think there was another time where she looked for the pass, and the pass wasn't very good. I think it was to Ferguson, who was in the area, and Ferguson can't really do much with a bouncing ball like that. I think if Jale was on form and kind of a bit more decisive in the final third, we definitely could have grinded out a 2-1 result.
Yeah, I don't think it was the best showing from us. The passing looked quite sloppy the whole game, and the positioning just seemed a bit off. And it just at points it just kind of looked like a team where none of the players had played together before. It just seemed like there was just something off there. They couldn't connect anything. They were looking for players, and they were somewhere completely different. It was just a bit different to how they've been playing recently, and I don't really know what caused it. And also, I'm not sure if this was on purpose, but they were also in the first half playing a lot of balls over the top, trying to, I guess, get to Ferguson or something. And it was into the wind, and it's just not really how we play. It's a lot of balls to feet through the midfield, hit it out wide, and then put a cross in. We have Elliott, we have Wall out there. They can, whip a ball in, and then we get on the end of it. And usually that's the better way to go. But they were playing the balls over the top. They're going straight to the goalkeeper, who is one of the better goalkeepers in the league, and she could just pick it up and then restart. So not quite sure why they were doing that. It just seemed like it was just a bit of an off game, and I don't know if it's just that Mariners are a bogey team or whatever, but it's not the best showing from us, so hopefully that we can recover from it. But as you said, it was a pretty even game. Exactly the same passes, exactly the same position, exactly the same number of duels won. And so, it was really just going to take kind of a worldie of a goal to separate the two sides. And unfortunately, it was their worldie, not ours. So, what can you do?
I think the way we press is really interesting in this game and other games, because I think it kind of makes us really vulnerable to the ball over the top. when we press, we've kind of got Ferguson leading it, and then we've got Longo and Wynnum in, kind of behind her, who are kind of in no man's land in this game. They're not pressing the centre backs and they're not covering the midfielders behind them. And then once, which I understand why we're doing it, because in the A-League Women's, there aren't that many good ball-playing defenders, and the defenders get caught in possession quite a lot, which has, scored us a couple goals this season. But in this game, that wasn't happening, and then the Mariners kept kind of skipping Annalie Longo and Alyssa Wynnum. And then what was happening is Maya McCutcheon was the six, and there was about 2 or 3 midfielders around her, and she, as good as she can't deal with that many midfielders, and that forced Lara Wall to kind of step up into the midfield and help her out there. And then we're playing free at the back basically, and that really isolates our defenders. And then they just play the ball over top. And I think Olivia Kelly has been guilty of not tracking her attackers' runs quite a lot this season. I think we've conceded quite a lot of space to that. I think she's a good centre back. She's scored a goal. But in terms of tracking runs, I think there needs to be a lot of work there. And it's kind of interesting how we start the press with Ferguson and then Wynnum and Longo kind of follow up, and it's kind of the butterfly effect that translates across the pitch. No one in midfield, fullback has to step up, and then that makes us vulnerable over the top. I understand why we do it, because we've scored a few goals from just intercepting those passes from the centre backs, but at the same time, it makes us very vulnerable on the counter attack.
We did fiddle with our back line. It felt like during that game itself, we kept changing the number of backs. We kept changing where they were, which I guess tweaking is helpful. And we did defend fairly well. There were the odd mistake, but that's always going to happen. I don't know where we go with there. You're right about talking about it being starting from the front and the pressing, and where the pressing exposes us. It does bring me back to a question as well. Should we be starting Olivia Ferguson if she's not getting the ball and not getting the chances? Because she presses really well. She's a beautiful presser, really, really good at pressing. Will run and run and run and run. But are we using her to tire out the defence and then swapping her on for Emma Main, or should we be starting Emma Main? Emma Main also works pretty hard, but she's seeming to score more. I think she's a slightly different player. So I do wonder, with all due respect to Fergie, like you said, it works her butt off. We don't really succeed that well with Fergie on the pitch. It tends to happen when we make those changes. And Emma Main seems to be a catalyst for a lot of good attack. Should we be starting Emma Main, or does she not provide what we need in that first half?
I think it would also depend on who we're playing as well. We're coming up against Brisbane Roar. They play 3 at the back with the central centre back as, if I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't think that she's overly good at football, and I think she's prone to mistakes. So I think with the game that's coming up, with the 3 across the back, with a dodgy centre back, perhaps Ferguson's a better option there, because she will press there, she'll put that pressure on, and she was likely to force a mistake. But if we're coming up a team against maybe Melbourne City, who you have Rebecca Stott there, who is very solid on the ball, and she'll be fine to play out of a press. Perhaps she's not the best option to start, and Emma Main is the best option to start. But that's something that Temps will have to look into and judge based on that, seeming we're getting a lot of our goals later on when Emma Main is on the pitch. So
yeah, I think Olivia Ferguson contributes a lot more to the team than is visible to the naked eye. I think striker's main goal is to score goals, and she doesn't really do that, which to add to your point, she should be scoring goals as a striker. She should be, lots of people think striker should be our main catalyst in attack, and she's not. But I think she links up pretty well with Longo and Wynnum, especially. Not with Jale though. I think that kind of chemistry in there could be built a lot more. And at the start of the season, I would have thought that those two would be our most dangerous players, and they're not linking up together. I think if they can, that that opens a lot of doors for us. And I think her pressing is really good. She tires out defenses. It seems like that's kind of our strategy at the moment, to tire out defenses in the first half, and then we sub on Main and Manaya, and then they just kind of run free because the defenders are zonkered. I think she's good. She's played in the WSL. She's got a lot of experience to add with to build with Longo, to super experienced players. I think she's the right player in the long term for us, especially because she's an import and she'll take a while to gel fully with the team.
Yeah, I certainly agree that she's an excellent player. I think the question is whether she's the right player for what we specifically need and the way that we play. So, I mean, time will tell, and there is a temptation to play your imports because they're on bigger money and things like that. I don't know. This is no criticism of Fergie at all. I really like her, and I like that she puts in so much effort, but it's just a wonder whether it's the right personnel for what we need to do. I appreciated that the last game we played, we made subs at halftime. That changed the game. Obviously, we were a lot further behind. We were 2-0 behind at halftime at that game, and we were 0-0 at halftime for this game. But maybe we did leave it a bit longer than we needed to change the personnel on the field if something's not working. But I'm not the expert. I don't know. We do have Brisbane, as Erin mentioned, with her favourite centre-back in the league. Now, we did beat Brisbane at Porirua Park. That was, of course, at Porirua Park at home. And Sian Fryer was missing, as was Tamika Yallop. They were on Matilda's duty. This time, presumably, Yallop will be playing. Sian Fryer went down with what looked like a pretty nasty injury last night in their game against Perth, which is apparently only bruising. Now, I don't wish harm on any player, but I do secretly hope that the bruising does last badly enough until Sunday and that she somehow just can't play for us. I have a feeling that's not the case. So I don't know what we're going to do about Sian Fryer, or the other Fryer for that matter. I think we need to put somebody who's really quick and really good with 1v1 and blocking crosses out there. And I don't know who that's going to be. I think that Mac can do it, but then we're pulling Mac out of the centre back role. So not sure. One person who won't be there is Holly McQueen, who's one of their defenders. She got a dogso last night. How are we feeling about Brisbane, Alex?
I think this is a really good test for us. Brisbane are kind of in the position where we want to be. We're just sitting on the kind of the outskirts of the top six. Brisbane are a bit more, they're up in top four. They're a bit more assimilated with the top six. I think they're kind of the level we strive to be, and then once we reach kind of that level, or that level on the table, then we kind of look to build from there. So I think it's a good test for us at this stage of the season. Being away from home kind of gives me a bit of doubts, but we have been better away from home this season. To be honest, I'd probably take a draw out of this game, just based on the fact that we're coming off a loss, and Brisbane have been relatively good this season. But all in, I'll take a draw.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but Brisbane is so close to going back on fraud watch for me. They last week they lost to Perth, basically in the last minute. McQueen got her dogso red card, and then they set up one of the worst walls I have ever seen from a free kick, and Perth just scored that very easily into the net. So I think that the raw backline is a bit of a liability for their team. Anything from the midfield up, they're good to go. But if you break that line, I think you have a good chance of scoring a goal, because I haven't really seen them play with too much confidence in the back there. And obviously with, they typically play three at the back. If one of their back three have now gotten a red card, who are they going to put there now? Someone who doesn't have as much experience? Are they going to change their formation? Are they going to tactically change who plays there? Are they going to pull Sian Fryer back as a fullback? Who knows? And Bali's still there as well. So I can see us getting, a draw from this. I think that we could probably still win. And I feel like it's basically going to be probably a battle of the midfields. And if we kind of get a Jale, Longo, Wynnum, McCutcheon all at the kind of top of their game, then I think that we can take it.
Forgot to mention as well with their defence, and we were talking about their back line, Sakani is also can be excellent shot stopper, but she coughed up a rather embarrassing goal by just dwelling too long on the ball while playing out from the back and turning it over to, I can't remember who, but it was not a good goal to concede. So I feel like Raw have this brilliant attack, but not as great of a defence. So we'll see. It will be a battle. I mostly hope that we've just thrown away that away form, because I went to that game, that fixture last time. It's a great little park, Perry Park. It's definitely worth going. So if you live up that way, definitely consider going. That was a game in which we scored first and then conceded 2 goals to lose. So I think we can beat anyone. But we will see. Okay, we will move on to talking point. We want to talk about kit and equipment. We will start with the big one, which has been happening a lot. Again, the choice to wear black at home. I understand that we have two kits and they have 2 different sponsors, and maybe sometimes we have to wear black at home. What I do disagree with wearing it yesterday was it's a city we haven't been to for a long time. There were people who were new to the Knicks who didn't understand which team we were, apparently. Also, we should not be wearing our non-yellow kit when we're playing a yellow team. Like, okay, we wear our black kit against Brisbane, whatever, but we shouldn't be wearing it at home against Mariners, who then get to wear yellow at home at our home game. I just think that sucks. I don't see why that decision was made. I think that, okay, if we have to wear the black at home sometimes, whatever. This was not the game for it. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, letting them wear yellow was criminal. I think I turned the game. I think the stream was a bit delayed, but when I turned it on, I was like, "Who are we?" I was like, "Which team are we? Which team is playing worse?" It's probably us, but I don't know. It was hard to tell, and it's just confusing, kind of, to see a team playing yellow and it not be the Phoenix. I don't care if they wear black at home or any of that kind of stuff. You know, it's fine. I didn't like it when they wore the black shirts and the yellow shorts. That was kind of terrible last season as well, and I think that was unlucky for us. We didn't really do too well in that, but I think, yeah, playing a yellow team, we should wear yellow at home. Who cares what happens in the other games? But I think that one's just a no-brainer.
I understand that point, but I also understand how big the money side of it is for the club, and they've got different sponsors on both shirts, and if they make, I don't know what the margins are like, but if they make 20 grand extra a year from wearing black in Christchurch, I think that's a good decision. I think they should wear yellow. Obviously, they should try, because it's a kind of whole new catchment area, and they haven't played there for so long. And they've got the potential to win over some fans from the Auckland Brigade. Except I think pretty much everyone in New Zealand, apart from Auckland, wants us to win. But I think we're a club with low profit margins, if any profit margin. We're probably one of the poorest team in the league in terms of owner investment, and every cent counts. And I think if we get a little bit extra money from that, I don't think it really matters.
That's interesting. And so sometimes it is like with the black shirt, yellow shorts and socks, which I also thought looked horrible last year. I think that was an issue just with the Jets, because the Jets have a light coloured top and then dark shorts and dark socks. So I have a feeling and because there's not really a third kit, so to speak, well, not one that can be worn regularly for us, that might be why we had that. Yeah, I didn't like that colour combination either, but I'm pretty sure that it was Jets games and that was why. We would love to hear from our audience what you think about the kits being what they were on Saturday. It's obviously, it's a financial decision, a lot of it, but what counts is worth it? Like, how badly do you want to annoy your fans? Or maybe some don't really mind that much. It's a whole gamut of things. We also wanted to talk about, this was Erin's thought. What piece of playing equipment would you like to complain about, Erin?
I think the shin pads are getting ridiculous. I think the rules state that it has to be of adequate protection, or so I don't know what the actual wording is. It's something like that. And then you see people with these tiny as rice-sized pieces of, I don't even know what they are, on their legs, and it offers absolutely no protection whatsoever. And as soon as they get hit in the leg, they're rolling around on the ground complaining. Um, I don't understand. I'm not a top athlete, so I don't understand, if it makes you more aerodynamic and can run faster or anything. But, the old school footballers had the big chunky ones on, and they were still, beating players. They were still running past players. They were still hitting at top corner. So I don't know how much benefit it adds to have these tiny ass shin pads. You just look ridiculous. And I think maybe there should be a bit more of a specific law in the game that says that they have to be a certain size and proportion with your shin to make sure that it actually stops injuries. Otherwise, I feel like they're just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Well, I think it kind of it's more of the young people doing it more and more these days, the young players. And, I think football is kind of growing into the way in New Zealand where it starts at, lunchtime football at school. And you're obviously not going to wear shin pads at lunchtime football, as well as futsal. I think they say you got to wear it in futsal, but no one does, at least in my leagues. And then I think that kind of ties or kind of moves over to professional football. And, there's these rules that they have to wear shin pads, and then they, pay $30. I've seen the ads on TikTok for these tiny rice grain sized paper shin pads. I don't really see the point of it either. People seem to think that it slows them down, which I don't really get. It's just something that slides into your sock. I get the ones that kind of go around your ankle. I get how that would slow you down, but just don't wear those ones. It's not that hard. You can get, normal sized ones. They don't slow you down. Come on. You're just trying to be different.
I really reckon some of it is a little bit like a fashion statement, because I feel like the players who do that are always the ones who have their socks rolled all the way down to their ankles. You can think of people like Daniel Arzani. I think there should be like a minimum, and I don't understand why it's not being checked by referees. Obviously, it's not been seen as a priority or a rule. If shin pads fall out, they do make them put them back in eventually, but if the shin pads are that small, like, what's the point? I mean, I do understand with like the heavier shin pads. Like when I first started playing, I wore the bulkier ones that went like around the ankle, and now I have ones that slip in, and they are a lot better, but they don't have to be tiny. And as Erin said, my pet hate is that people who wear these tiny shin pads, they get knocked in the shin in a place where a shin pad would have lessened that injury, and then they roll around and have a sook about it. And it's like, well, if you wore proper shin pads, reasonable size shin pads, you wouldn't have this problem. But instead, you think, well, oh, no, I don't need to wear like proper protection, and then pack a shit when they get hurt. It does my head in. Any other thoughts about equipment or kit or anything like that?
Yeah, I just remember I played a game a few years ago, and the ref told me off because I'd rolled up my sleeves. And I don't even know. I think maybe the rule has to have your sleeves down so they can tell the difference between the teams or something. I don't know. I think I heard him say that it was like intimidating that I had my shoulders out and looked like I was ready to scrap someone. But I don't know if you've seen my little chicken arms or anything, but that's definitely not threatening. So I don't know, if a ref can pull me up for, trying to cool myself down by rolling up my sleeves, I could probably do a bit more about making sure someone's leg doesn't snap in half.
That's all over the place at grassroots, I feel like, because I've had teammates over here in Sydney be told they can't roll their sleeves up. Another one, there's like this one ref in my area who makes the players tuck their shirts in, which is just a whole nother level of I just don't know why. I don't know why this matters. The sleeves, at least you could argue, well, sometimes the sleeves are coloured, but still, if it's intimidating, so weird. Alex, what are they like where you play? Do they have all sorts of weird rules? What league do you play in?
I play relatively high level football in Wellington. Like, I think the second highest U17 league, and I've never seen anything like that. The most they've done is tell someone off for not wearing shin pads, and then my coach always brings an extra pair because he knows what kids are like. But yeah, that's completely ridiculous. Telling you to tuck your shirt in or roll up your sleeves. If people are worried about shin pads slowing you down, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to think about tucked in shirts.
It does remind me of someone I know who forgot to bring her shin pads, and so she decided to like fold up paper plates and stick them down the front of her socks to try and trick the referee. And the referee's like, "I'm pretty sure those aren't shin pads. You need to get your shin pads." So shout out to the. But then again, those paper plates probably provided better protection than those little tic tac size ones that we see with a lot of players these days.
Yeah, I think some people, when I was young, if they forgot their mouth guard, they would try like the halftime orange peel in their mouth to try to get away with it, which definitely does not offer the same protection as a mouth guard and is probably quite obvious, but they tried.
All right, well, let us know alongside what you feel about which colour kit we wear at home, how you feel about the tiny shin pads, or any other take that you have on equipment or kit. Thank you for joining us. The men have a bye this coming week, but we'll be playing Brisbane Roar. The women will be back to have a chat about them next week for their game. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Mā te wā.